Welcome guys. So in this section, let us see how to run our Playwright test framework in parallel on Azure Cloud hosted browsers. So that means I think technically we have 20 tests in our framework, right? So we can run all those tests in parallel in the cloud browsers. So you need not worry about setting up that infrastructure on your systems in terms of Docker or connect to virtual machines. There is no such headache because Playwright is developed by Microsoft. Azure is also developed by Microsoft. So because the parent is same for both Playwright and Azure, so they have provided some seamless integration where we can run all our tests on the cloud browsers with very less configuration. Okay. And not only that, we can also implement CI/CD pipelines in Azure portal itself and run your job on nightly runs, or whenever you make a commit to the repository, the CI/CD job will automatically trigger and run all your test cases in reliable fast test speed in parallel mode on their cloud browsers. So all that infrastructure headache is handled by Azure. All you need to do is write tests in your local system. That's all. And running execution. And you know what? They also provide you a dashboard for seeing the complete Playwright reports. Okay, in the Azure itself, you will have a link where you can see the Playwright results dashboard with all the necessary information out there. You will see and just surprised how these guys have provided that integration. So in this section, let's see how to do that from scratch on end to end. But do remember, there are two parts here. Running your tests parallelly on cloud hosted. That you can try with a free account. So we will set up one free account and I will show you a demo. But when you want to run your CI/CD pipelines in parallel, then you need to go with a subscription plan. So in training, I will take 1 month subscription plan and explain you. Okay, obviously, if you want to implement this solution in your company, it's a paid one, no doubt about it. But with very minimal cost, compare it to other infrastructure facilities, tools available there, Azure is the best choice because of its own product, right? Playwright. And this integration is a key with a minimal configuration. So that you will appreciate in the coming lectures when you see the actual how it is working in place, right? So let's get started. First thing, you need to create one Azure account. Okay, let's start with that. So I'll just type Azure Devops or Azure Microsoft, whatever it is. So when you go to their official website called azure.microsoft.com, so here where it will ask you that, do you want to sign in? Because this is our first time, let's say get started with Azure. And this is the subscription plan, pay as you go. For now, it is not required. I'll directly start with try Azure for free. You can quickly create one account. I hope most of you already have. So let me create one. Let's say operations at RSTX. Once you follow and complete the sign-in process, then we will get to the sign-in page. Okay. So in the process of signing up, it might ask you the credit card. So do remember that for first month, it is completely free. So after you practice, you can again deactivate the service. So they were clearly telling that they won't be charged until you change your subscription model. As long as you stay in free model, you are good. They will never charge to your account. But later in the process of learning, if you feel that you have to change your subscription, then they will use the card, what you have provided in the process of signing up, to deduct. Okay, don't worry, you can still give it and no money will be deducted if you are on the free version. All right, I just clicked on sign up. So once you sign up and log in, this is how you will see the portal. Okay, so here where you can create new Azure services. So click on create a resource and search for Playwright. Okay, and here you will see Microsoft Playwright testing preview. So this is the one we can use. Select on that service and you can click on create. So these are the parameters you need to provide to create one Playwright workspace. Okay, so right now all your tests are in your local, sitting in the VS Code. That is your local workspace. Now our goal is to deploy this repository into cloud machine and execute there in the cloud browsers, right?
So for that, in cloud machine also you need to create one workspace. So that workspace name and in which region you have to create, that details you have to provide here. And there is something called resource group. So basically resource is a parent where a multiple workspaces can be part of one resource. Okay, so today you are creating one workspace and tomorrow you can create another workspace or another VM. All that if you can group under one resource, and if you can give permission on resource level, so all the child workspaces or VMs will commonly get the access. So basically some set of cloud things you are wrapping under one resource by naming it. So as we are starting from the scratch, right now we don't have any resource group to assign this workspace to. So we need to click create new and create one resource group so that it will be assigned automatically. So with these details, we will create one workspace. Now, subscription.
So in my case, you will see Azure subscription 1 because I have a paid subscription. In your case, it's a free version, right? So you will see something called free tier, something related to free text. You will see in the subscription box. You might not see this Azure subscription 1. So specific name of Azure will come after you pay, but for first time free users, you will see free terminology text here. Just select it, whatever it is available there. Okay. Next, resource group. Create a new resource. So I would say it as testing PR. It's like testing playwright. So instance details, I would call PR test. And you can, okay, so it says Microsoft Playwright resource with this name already exists. So somebody already used this instance. So you have to give something unique. And wherever you are applicable, you can give that location name if it's East Asia, East US or West Europe. So basically that is the region where your tests will be run. Okay. So remember these details, PR test 09, and this is your resource group. With that, let's go ahead and create. Awesome. So it will take some time. The deployment is in progress. So leave it there like that. So same time, go to the Google and just type Azure Playwright. So for now, we have just created one account with Azure, and so now we created one resource just for search Playwright. For Azure Playwright. That's all we did for now. Here is where you will get a guide for a quick start to run your Playwright test in a scale on Azure. Okay. So let's follow these instructions step by step what they have given here, and then we will be able to complete our task. So firstly, what they were asking is prerequisite, an Azure account with active subscription. So if you don't have Azure subscription, create a free account before you begin. So that's what we did, right? We created one Azure account with a free subscription. Okay. Now your Azure account needs the owner contributor. Obviously, we are the only admin of our account. So we already satisfied this second one. The third one, a Playwright project, which we already have in our local system. So we have built this entire framework with lot of test cases in JavaScript, TypeScript, page objects, Cucumber, all that we have done until last section, right? So let's use the same Playwright framework now to run on the cloud, right? So that way we are satisfied with this point as well. Azure CLI, if you don't have that, you have to install it. So I will get there, but for now, all the prerequisites of free account and having a project is ready. So after that, you need to create a workspace in the cloud. So that means you need to sign into this Playwright portal with your valid Azure account. So let me go to that link, and here where you will see sign in. So this is a cloud URL where your results will be posted, playwright.microsoft.com. So if you use Azure to run your tests, that test report will be displayed in this portal. So go ahead, sign in, and I already have an account with Azure, what we created in the last lecture. Yeah, these are the results for one of my previous workspace, what I tried in my local, but don't worry, we will do all these from scratch. Okay. So this is very cool that you get all the results, pass, fail, and you can go inside and do a lot of things here. So hold on, I will start again with a fresh workspace. So these are different workspaces I have. So we created one with PR test 09. If you remember from the Azure, previously we created one resource and that resource name is PR09. Okay, so with that resource, it is already one workspace is created for us in this playwright.microsoft.com. So let's simply go to that particular resource, and here where it will give you all the details on how you can connect your tests into cloud. So let's start step by step to achieve it. Okay, so first of all, install Playwright testing service package. So this is what you need to install. Copy this and go to your project path in your system. Now let's follow step by step instructions. So first of all, to connect to Azure, they were asking to install this package into your package.json. So the moment you ask to initialize this npm module, so it will try to get from the node module dependencies. You can see that npm install this package. So after this, you will be able to see this package details in the package.json. All right. You see that? Let me go to package.json very quick. And you see that it has created one entry saying Azure Microsoft Playwright testing. At the same time, observe that it created another configuration file also for you, playwright.service.config.js. So you all know that config.js file is the heart to run your entire Playwright framework, right? This is like a test runner. So you can have multiple configuration files as well. So that we have seen demo in one of our previous section in the Playwright course, that you can use default configuration or your own custom configuration. So whenever you want to run the test, this is the first root point. The test execution starts from configuration file. So whatever you provide here, what test to run, for example, I'm asking here to run the test based on the timeout settings or which browser I have to run, whether it is a head or headless, everything I will define here. This is the test runner configuration file. Similarly, if you want to run in Azure Cloud, you have to use another configuration file. So that configuration file by default, you will get it the moment you install this package. It will be created in your project. So if you want to run your tests in Azure, you have to point your test running to this configuration. So it will connect to the cloud and it runs there. That's the concept. Okay. And what configuration file you need to create, that headache you don't need to worry, because it's ready-made created for us the moment you give this command. Very great. Now let's go back. Step 2. Now you have to log in with your Azure account. See, now you are saying that run this test in Azure. So if you simply pass the command here asking to run Playwright test using this configuration file, then this configuration file will have details about running in Azure Cloud. But how it will run automatically? There should be some authentication, right? If there is no authentication, then anybody can run in any machine. So there is no concept of paid or free, nothing will be there. So somewhere we need to get authenticated before we connect to the cloud. That is for sure, right? So that information we have to provide now. AZ login. So this will help you to log into Azure. So you cannot do it directly. First you need to have Azure CLI for this step. So again, right click here to install. Now you need to go to their documentation to understand how to install this Azure CLI. Okay. So for Windows users, it is pretty straightforward, I would say. So there are total 4 ways that you can install. That installer, you can use this or as a zip file, a package manager. I would recommend to use this installer. So that way directly you will click next, and Azure CLI will be ready, right? So once that CLI is ready, then you will be able to hit commands on login. Similarly for Mac guys, you need to install through Homebrew. So you need to provide this command to install Azure CLI to use commands called AZ. So basically if you use AZ without installing the CLI, you will get an error that AZ is not recognized as internal or external command. So once you have this Azure CLI with Microsoft .msi setup with Windows or installing through Brew through Mac, you will be able to use that AZ. Your system will recognize it. Okay. So if you encounter issues, especially for Mac guys, the moment you hit it, you might run into issues. So there could be any issue that is very difficult to predict because of node version or whatever. So they have provided some troubleshooting guide. You can go and check it here, and they also given what is the problem, that if completion is not working, if it gives unable to find Python, what you should do, all that they have given some information. In my case, make sure you are on updated node version. Okay, so check what is the node version is stable available there, and make sure you have it. As long as you satisfy the requirement of having the node stable version, it should work hopefully. If not, follow the troubleshooting guide, and it will help you to see for Mac. I think for Windows it is pretty straightforward. If you install this MSI, it will be done. Okay, so I already have that. All I did from my Mac machine is that I provided this command and it installed Azure CLI. Okay, next step. Now we can log in with Azure AZ login command. So let me go back to my terminal. I'll again put clear. The moment you provide this login credentials, it will redirect to your browser. Okay, and then here is where you will give your login credentials. See, it logs in the browser, but you can go back and it will be authenticated for you. You see, it has pulled up retrieving tenants, subscriptions, everything. This is my subscription. In your case, you will see free tier subscription here. Okay, but everything is same guys. I'll tell you where it will differ compared to free versus paid. As of now, there is no change. Let's continue. So select a subscription and tenant. So right now we have only one subscription. So let's not have any changes here. I'll simply hit on enter, and that's it. Azure is successfully authenticated in my system. So that means now we can talk to our own cloud account from our local system. That connection we established. Okay. So we did two things. First of all, we made our project ready to talk to cloud in step 1 by installing that package. In step 2, to talk to cloud, we got that authentication, right? That lock key we got. So we opened the lock in step 2. Now what next? In step 3, you have to tell to the playwright that where, in which region. So every account have its own API, own endpoint. That is where your test will run. Now when you create an account, for you, they will assign one endpoint. That endpoint is the place where all your test execution will happen. Okay. So now in the first account, after we log in, there could be multiple endpoints. Okay. Right now in your case, in the portal, we have only one endpoint. But in reality, if your company have multiple projects, each people can use their own endpoint to run their hosted tests. Okay. So this is your regional endpoint here where you need to target. So that means when test execution is happening, your framework, this will look for this variable playwright service URL. This is the variable your framework will look for. You have imported this package, right? Within this package, there is a variable called playwright service URL. So that URL is an endpoint where this all tests will go. Right now, there is nowhere written what is that variable endpoint. Okay, that information is not present anywhere. That's why we need to create one global variable to tell our framework what is this variable value. So once you feed this variable with this value, in the process of execution, when it encounters that variable, then it replaces with the value what you provided here, and it will make sure the tests are pointing to that endpoint. So to keep it simple, you need to simply add this variable. That's all. Copy this. Okay. And again, go back to your terminal. And this is the complete endpoint where my tests are targeted. So I have selected, West Europe zone for hosting it. That's all. You just added this variable. and you are all set. They are asking to go ahead and run your test. Now, you know this command, right? Because we have seen a lot of things in the previous lectures, that npx playwright test is a simple command where it will execute all the test cases present in the your configuration file path. Now, if let's say if this is your configuration, by default playwright.config.js is the default configuration for your project. So here you are telling all test cases are present in this test folder. So it will simply go to this test folder, and when you say npx playwright test, it will execute all the test cases present in that folder. But we don't want this file now, right? This file will run tests in your local. We want to run this test in cloud. For that, we have another configuration file which they provided, playwright.service.config.js. So what they were saying is, run your tests, but tell your tests that use the configuration file of playwright.service.config.ts. So here it is TypeScript, but in our case it's a JavaScript project what we have, so use JS here. Okay, and do you want to run them in parallel? Then you put workers equals to 20. So that means it will open 20 different machines for you to run your tests. So parallel execution will happen in magically very fast manner. Okay, now let me copy this. So I'll go back to terminal, right click and paste. So make sure you give .js file here. All right, so just check is everything correct, because we connected to Azure, we logged in, we told where we want to run, and we are now pointing to our JS file with 20 parallel works. That's great. Click on enter. So in Mac, you get this FS event stored cannot be opened because I have a strict security malware app. Don't worry, in your case you won't get it. All I need to do is cancel this. Okay, so the moment it will prompt me with multiple times, but later the execution will start and then it will run smooth. See, test execution started. There are some failed tests which we intentionally introduced because I want to show you the report with 50% pass and 50% fail, so that I also want to give on how to debug and troubleshoot on cloud for your failed test cases. So that's the reason we incorporated some here and there failures intentionally. All right, you see that execution is going very fast. I have around 13 test cases. It's been, I think, 20 seconds we started, because they all are running in parallel here in the cloud machine. It's not in your local now. We have connected to Azure and it is using Azure Cloud browsers. Based on what configuration you gave in your framework, it's running in there. All right, looks like test execution is done. 12 are passed, 7 are failed. And see how fast. I think hardly it took 1 minute to run my 21 test cases. Okay. So, and you have a cloud report as well. Now don't worry about where these reports are generated. You have a cloud URL, and now go back to your portal, right? This is your portal, right? playwright.microsoft.com. Click on home. So let me go to workspaces. Just make sure we are on right workspace. So as I said, a company can have multiple workspaces based on the projects. So if your company have taken Azure Access, then let's say PR test 09 is about your project, then you can go to that project, and here where all the reports will be displayed here, and you can see that 12 passed, 7 failed. That's the beauty. Now all they are consolidated. So that means if your company have taken integration with Azure, all the projects which are running under that one domain can be consolidated into one dashboard, and in that dashboard they can come to the project and see the results. Now look at the magic here. 12 passed, 7 failed. I don't want to care about passed test. I filtered only with failed and flaky. Now I want to debug to know where test failed. Everything what you have when you run Playwright in local, same features Azure is giving on the cloud as well. Now select this. It will tell you which step it failed. see, it failed this step, and this is the screenshot. So that means no products is found. Somewhere parallel execution made this error. Okay. And if you want to go in depth of seeing the whole video of this run, then go to view trace viewer. And here where you can see the step-by-step video of how it ran, and it failed here. That's what it is showing. Okay. After it select products to the cart, next step, the products which are in the cart are not showing here. Okay. See, all the debugging with video of how the test ran and failed, with the screenshots, with the error message, and what step failed, everything you can see within this dashboard itself. So this is your project's result dashboard. So technically, to implement this, people will spend a lot of effort in writing code, of building their own dashboards with pie charts, and they assign a separate project for it, and test architects will work on that project to create all these reports. But now with the help of Azure, everything is a cakewalk, right? All we need is we just followed one documentation, right? With that documentation, we are able to solve everything. So this is the one, getting started with Microsoft Playwright testing. So we followed few steps and able to connect everything, like set up this project, set up the region, and that's it. We authenticated and ran our tests. All that happened, and we are able to see how many pass, how many fail, flaky, everything. Let's go back to the Word document text. What I was told here, run playwright tests. Yes, in parallel. Yep, we did it. 20 different machines on Azure Cloud hosted browsers and the hosted online results. Okay, all this you can do free with your free account. But if you want to implement in your company and showcase there, obviously it's a paid one. Only for practice, it's a free for one user. If you want to use it at enterprise level, you have to take subscription. So in this lecture, let's see how we can implement CI/CD Azure pipelines. So for that, you need to do some setup of uploading your repository in either GitHub or Azure repository. And then from there, you can push your code to CI/CD pipeline. So all that we will see quick in this lecture. So for repositories and the pipelines, let me use Azure Devops Portal only. Okay, just like Jenkins, Azure also have their own DevOps portal where you can create jobs as well as push the repositories. So GitHub is a place where you will see all the repositories, right? So in Azure, we have one centralized place where you can push your repositories, also create jobs like Jenkins. Okay, so just Azure DevOps, that is the platform. So go there, and we already have an account, right? So click on sign in. These people have provided multiple navigations. Okay, so you will be back to portal.azure.com. So here I want DevOps. So Azure DevOps is what I will search for. Okay, so in Azure DevOps organizations, my Azure DevOps organization, you need to select it. And for first time, when you do, it will ask you to create your own organization by asking to give you a name. In my case, I already have an organization, so I will be directly logging in. So you see that contact 0902 is the organization which I already have. In your case, it will be like this. So you can click on create new organization and you can get started. So you can give some random name here. Probably I'll say 0328 and click on continue. So it will take you to the DevOps homepage for that organization. That's okay. Let me create a new one and do it. So that way you know how to get started. So create a project to get started. So what project you want? I would say test space. For now, it's our private project. So in this project, you will be able to upload your repositories. See on the left side, this is one place where you can do everything related to the project management. So your automation code repositories can be pushed here. You can create pipeline jobs just like how you do in Jenkins, and you have environments to tell how to manage deployments like, do you want to deploy in prod or deploy in QA environment, dev environment? All the deployments can be done by selecting environments here. And test plans. You can actually create test cases, track the test cases, execute them, pass, fail, everything you can do internally within Azure DevOps. Okay. And if you have any artifacts that if you want to upload and have it, like Maven jars or NPM packages, that also you can do. So this is a board where it's like Jira board where you can create a new sprint and work on it. So it's a overall a project management tool where you can do end-to-end activities. Okay, that's cool, right? So there is a separate course of mine, Azure DevOps. Look at that. In that course, I have explained how to navigate and explain each and every feature of this Azure DevOps. So you will be mastered in the whole DevOps platform. But here, all we need is a repo and pipelines, because in the repo is a place where we will push our code now, and we will use that in creating a CI/CD pipelines. All right. So push an existing repository from command line. So right now we already have repository with us, right? All we need to do is push it. So first of all, this repository is not Git enabled. Let's make it. When you do Git init, so it initialized as a Git repository. That is the first step. If you don't provide Git init, it has no clue what Git is about. And I hope Git is installed in your system. If not, just go to Google and install Git software. There are n number of articles which tell you how to do it with ease. It's pretty straightforward. Go to Git and you can download for Windows or download for Mac and follow the instructions. So Git will be ready in your system. Okay. After that, provide this command so that Git is initialized within your project so it can talk to the cloud repositories. All right. So next, git remote add origin. And first we need to add this origin, right? So that's how you will tell your local system that this is our origin. This is your project, what you just created, 0328. And in that project, you will see all these repositories, everything. And then you will be able to push. So first of all, let's take this first two lines, git remote add origin, and paste it here. So we are setting up origin, that where we want to push our code. Great. Now origin is set. Now your repository know that where it has to push the code. The next step, you can say git push to origin, push all the code. Okay. Hit an enter. And this will, whatever code you have in your local, in that folder, everything, it will push back to the repository. Okay, let's come back. You see that there is right now an error. No references in common and none specified, doing nothing. So if you go back, right now it did not push, it just authenticated. So that means first, let's add all these files into Git. So when you do git add dot, that means all the files are added to the staging phase. Now just do git status. See, all these files are in staging part now. And now commit these files, git commit, first commit. Okay, commit is done. And now try to push it. You see, it's working. So before, without committing your code, you cannot push any file into the repository. So we tried to blindly follow the instructions here, but it did not work. So the command is correct, git push, but before that you have to commit your code and then you have to push it, right? So the steps I hope you have seen. First, I have added git add dot, so all files will move to staging. Later, I check the status whether they move to staging or not, and then I give a commit message to commit all the files. And finally, I give a push. That's how your entire code in your local is now sitting in the Azure repository. Let's see. Let's go back to repositories. And here you go. See, all the files are present with simple commands. Okay. Now, pipelines, because your code is ready. Now let's go and create a pipeline. So for that, you might be wondered, how should I create CI/CD pipeline? Because as of now, we have no knowledge on creating pipelines using Azure. So basically, Azure DevOps will create pipeline based on instructions. So all that instructions will be provided in .yml file. Now for example, so they have given a guide again how to configure CI/CD pipeline. Select it, and few instructions we already have done previously, that you select this Azure pipelines as a tab folder. So there are two ways you can do it, either with GitHub Actions or Azure pipelines. We are exclusively on Azure. So select this tab. So these are prerequisites, that Azure Devops organization and project creation. Yes, we did it, right? Next, pipeline definition. That's what we are going to start, that creating our first pipeline. And here where you might need a paid connection. I'll get there, don't worry. So when you scroll down, we have all the service configuration file in place for our project, right? So previously when we ran from our local, we made sure that all the file has been set up. This part is done. And package.json, yes, we have already added this dev dependencies with the command, that also added already. So this enabling artifacts, by default it's there, so you need not worry. And this is the trick part. For you to create a pipeline, I told you, right, you need to have .yml file. So this is the file which will tell what to do for that pipeline. Now, if you carefully observe, there are 4 tasks here. Task 1, task 2, task 3. Actually 3 tasks only. Great. What is first task doing? So if you carefully observe, it's doing installation of dependencies. That's it. We are saying npm CI. So it does npm install, and it will install all the dependencies needed to run your Playwright project. Okay, so basically it comes to package.json and it install all these dependencies, because without installing these dependencies you cannot run anything, right? That's the first step anywhere, even in the Jenkins. So for the first task is to get all the dependencies needed for Azure pipeline to run your test cases. So these are like keywords it will be used. So what kind of shell you are using? Is it okay to use normal PowerShell or terminal command prompts? Yes, that is okay, right? You can simply give npm CI in normal PowerShell. When I say PowerShell in Windows terminology, it's just a command prompt. Okay. So from that task, because we are executing these in Linux we call those as the PowerShells. In that PowerShells, we are just giving this command. This is a script, right? Once everything is installed, next task is to run your tests. Okay, for that they have the dedicated Azure CLI. Remember that we have installed it for logging in, aged login, and then we gave our test, right? For that they were using Azure CLI task. And what all they are doing? When you come inside, technically they are running this one, npx run your Playwright test, pointing to the configuration file with workers 20, which we already did previously. Now we are writing that in the pipeline. So the one good thing here is, previously we have exported it, right? So that value you have to write it here. And aged login, we gave that command to login. But here in pipeline, who will type all that commands? See, now we understood that you need to give set of commands to run these tests. Number 1, installing the whole package, right? Where is it? Let me go over it so that you will easily correlate. So when you see the getting started guide, we did all this to run our tests in host from the local. Okay, we did this, right? npm initialization. Same thing we are doing now in pipeline, because whatever we did now in local, all we are automating in the pipeline job now. Okay, so as a first step here, an installation of what we have asked, that we are representing as a task in Azure language, saying that run this npm CI. And in the second step, we have set a regional endpoint, and we have also done authentication. Same thing, we have set that regional endpoint here, and we are doing authentication, but that authentication we are doing with the help of Azure subscription. So you need to provide your subscription content here. So every account comes with its own subscription value. That subscription value, you need to place it here. So it will automatically log in for you. So how to get that subscription value, I'll tell, don't worry. For now, I'm just explaining this pipeline script in high level, right? And the third task is to run your test. You see that it has given us command that where it has to run, because after you provide login, all that, you are all set to run your test, right? Same thing we are doing here. And finally, to upload report back to the portal, because we have seen how the reports being uploaded to your portal, right? So again, that stuff they have given here, that which is the target path where you want to upload. Okay, so we can provide this target path as well. So all this you can reuse. Only things which they commented here, that you have to replace with your own paths. Now, path to playwright folder, you will have your own folder path, right? You have to update it here, and you have to give your own service connection. And here also, what is your working directory, playwright folder, and where you need to generate reports. That's all. These 4 paths you need to replace. So I'm not going in detail of explaining each and every key values here, because that's whole different story. But for us to create our own playwright pipeline, when we have ready-made template like this, we should be able to understand what exactly this template is doing, and directly we can replace with our own values and make it work. Okay, so that way we need not really sit and learn how Azure pipelines, cloud, and how all these are described. See, to be frank, these are self-explanatory. You can just spend some time to understand how these tasks are defined. But for us, it's good that they already provided this ready-made YML file. All we need to do is just a replace. So let's get started by creating pipeline job. But before that, we have to put this YML file in your project and update these paths. And then you can create pipeline project out of it. Okay. So first of all, you need to create one file in the project level. So that is important. If you have the .yml file in the project level, then only Azure DevOps will be able to recognize that YML file and create pipeline out of it. Okay, so right click and say it as a new file, and you can actually copy paste this file and make changes. But for now, I would just create a new file and say Azure pipelines.yml. Okay, so this is my file. So there are a lot of indentations issues, guys, with this file. So if you exactly copy paste, you will see syntax errors because some things are not correctly aligned. So when you create .yml file, the indentation is very, very serious, because if small space or tab is missed out, then it will error out and your project will not run. So the same file, I have given correct indentations. Let me get that for you. Yep. So now I want to spend 1 minute of time to explain these indentations. Now, if you see carefully, now these are the jobs and tasks, right? There are 4 tasks here. In VS Code, we can nicely edit and explain. So first task is about installing dependencies. Second task is about authenticating with Azure and running your tests. Third task is about reporting. Okay, and you see how they are aligned straight in one line, and followed by, in every task there are some key value pairs, enable, display name, inputs. So these are main key values. So those should be again aligned exactly of bottom of this T, under the T. Okay, and inputs is a main heading and there is a subheading in it. So similarly, if you see task, under the task, there are few things like environment, inputs, display name. There are 3 sub components you have. Display name, that means just a text describing the task. So here we are running playwright tests. And do we need environment variables to run this test? Yes, we need. We need playwright service URL. That is important, right? Because we need to tell what endpoint our test is going to execute, and run ID. This is environment variables. Now to run your actual test, again inside this you see that there is one indentation. This is a parent, this is a child. So there is one indentation here. As inputs, you have to provide your Azure subscription and you run your commands. Okay, now we have to fill the values, right? So let me expand everything now. This is one task. I think 3 tasks have been expanded. So you have to exactly make the indentations like this. So even if you miss one space or if you write something like this, it will fail. So if you carefully observe this document, there is some mismatch in the way these indentations are placed. So if you directly copy paste, then you might get errors. So I will give this file in this lecture or very next lecture to download. So take this exactly and place it in your .yml file. So this is the whole template. So first we have to update. What is that? Working directory. Okay, let me go back to here. So if you exactly take this syntax, that's what I have taken here. I just adjusted indentations, that's it. It's the same content. So here they were asking, give the path to your Playwright folder. Okay, so all my Playwright tests are present in this test folder, right? So the relative path until project, this will obviously have the information. From there, you need to give the path where your tests are sitting. That's where your working directory is, right? Test / under this, all tests will be there. Just provide this, enough. Next, service connection used to authenticate this pipeline. Yep, here where you need to provide your Azure subscription. Okay, so for that, you can go to your project setting. So in pipelines, there is something called service connections. Okay, because you want to run a pipeline, then you should have a subscription, right? Obviously, without that, why will Azure allow you to run? So go to service connections, and here you have a create a service connection. Let's create it. And because we are working with a Playwright, Playwright is considered as a resource in Azure. If you remember, initially we created a resource here for Playwright. See, go to resource. The first step what we did after we signed up is create a Playwright resource. So that means we need a subscription for a Azure resource. So Azure Resource Manager, that is the subscription we need. And here where your subscriptions will load. Now, in your case, free subscription item will load here. By selecting that, if you click on next, your connection name will come. That connection name, if you provide here, your pipeline will not run. Because our goal here is to run our test cases in parallel in 20. Now, when you give command workers equals to 20, that means you are asking to run your tests in 20 browsers. So your free subscriptions comes with only one user run. And if you want to run parallelly in multiple hosted browsers, then you have to go for a subscription. Okay, so the subscription what I have here is pay as you go subscription, where I will be allowed to run tests in parallel as well. Okay, so if you are interested to try it, I think you just need to spend like 1500 INR. If you ask in dollars, it would be around $25, $29. So you can go ahead and create new Azure subscription and select a model, pay as you go, and then come back here. You will see that your new subscription will display here. But for you, you will see a free subscription here, which may not be enough to run your tests. Okay, even if you are not practicing, follow this. If you want to implement in your company, even free don't help. Free is only for you to practice. If you want to do some POC and to impress your clients or managers, you have to explicitly tell them this is a subscription based. Free is only for your practice. So resource group, what resource group you have allocated? So initially when you created a free subscription, you have given one resource group name. You can check back your previous video to understand it. So that will display here. So it is asking me to authenticate before I provide that resource's name. So let me give that details. So the moment I sign in, it will take me back, and I think that resource will load. Okay, so these are 3 resources. If you carefully remember that I created a resource called testing PR. Okay, so let me select that resource, and now here where you can give the connection name. So I will give connection name as Rahul Shetty Academy, and then I will click on save. So basically this is my connection name where it was tied up to the active subscription where I can run my tests in parallel in hosted browsers. Okay, so that Azure subscription name I will provide it here. So that way you need not give Azure AS login, because previously when you have run your tests in cloud from local, you provided AZ space login, right? That's where you entered username and password. Now with this name Rahul Shetty Academy, subscription name, because you are already logged in into your portal, it will get all service connections which are needed and it will authenticate you automatically. Okay, this is like just gate pass for you to bypass all that login information. Great. So now what else? So we have made sure that we have given service connection name, and again working directory. So here also, what is our working directory? So this, if I want to update with Playwright report, I'm just saying that under the test, create a Playwright report for me. But don't worry, we really don't see the report from here. We have a dedicated dashboard there. So obviously we will log in into the dashboard and see the results. But for now, I just told that path will be somewhere under the test folder. Okay. So I somewhere felt that adding working directory again in the second task is redundant. So that's why I removed it when I am optimizing this script. Okay. Now this is your actual script. Okay. npx playwright test. Now what I have written here, there are a lot of test cases present with me. So I chosen one test, let's say calendar.spec.js, and this is the configuration file. Okay, playwright.service.config.js. And if you want to run in parallel, then you will provide a command like ---- workers equals to 20. Okay, so right now I'm targeting only one test here. See, npx playwright test, and run only this spec file. I have given specific spec file name. If I don't give this, then what happens? Because you did not explicitly ask anything, it will run all the test cases. But if I explicitly ask that run go for this particular file, and obviously only that one file is there, I don't need to mention parallel runs. So for now, for understanding purpose, let's kickstart that pipeline with one single test. Once it is working, then we will expand to run in parallel mode. Okay. So that way you will understand step by step on how the whole architecture is being built. All right. So I have updated the paths and I have given Azure subscription name, right? And this file will be available for you to download next lecture. The only change what you need to do is give your own subscription name. That's all. If you give this name, it won't work for you. Okay. So this file is in my local now. I have to commit it. First, I will add that file into staging. So you can confirm with the status that there is a new file coming. Let's commit it and say pipeline file added. Okay. And then we have a push where you can push that complete file. All right. So let's go back now and see if it is updated there. So go back to repository and you should see that .yml file which got updated in this spot. Okay. Now let's go to pipelines. Create your first pipeline. And where is your code? So my code is now in Azure repos only, right? And select a repository that is sitting in this test space repository. So when you're configuring your pipeline, do you want to use existing pipeline file or you want to create freshly? We already have one existing, right? Which we created in our code repository. So let's select the existing one. And here, so where is that path? This is the path, right? Azure pipelines.yml, and click on continue, and whatever pipeline path you have there, you have it here now. And if you carefully observe, all this pipeline want is this .yml file. That's it. It does not need anything else, because from here itself, it will go and install the dependencies from your Git repo, because test space is what you are telling, right? Now, when you go to repos, test space is the repo where all your files are there, isn't it? Now, in the pipeline section, yeah, because we came back, let me create again. So we have in Azure repos. So this is the repository where all our files are there. And here we already have the file, and this is the path. Click on continue. That's it. Now, when you click on run, step 1, it will do a task of installing all dependencies. Step 2, that it will set up these environment variables and run the test. And third, it will upload the report. But one thing is missing, guys. So here we are telling that Playwright service URL, but where is it? We did not create variable here. So we are asking to collect this from the variable, but where is that variable defined? So previously we explicitly gave from our local saying that export that particular variable. See, like this we have given. It worked. But in the pipeline right now, it have no knowledge about it. Okay, let's give that knowledge. So go to variables. Let's create a new variable, name, and then you have to give the value of that entire service URL. So where do we have? Previously we have collected that somewhere here, right? Yeah, this is the value. So let's copy this, and you can get it from your dashboard as well. Let users override. No, we don't want to do that, and that's it. So let's click on OK, save, and run. So this creates a pipeline. So that means it will start running your jobs, and the build is in queue status, and you can see the log here. So this pipeline need permission to access a resource before this run can continue. Let's see what is that. Let's permit it. Permit. Oh, it says no hosted parallelism. Why? Even my subscription is gone. Let me check. Project settings, parallel jobs. Yeah, so here where you see 0 parallel jobs. So basically we are running our tests on Microsoft hosted browsers, right, by Azure. So right now we don't have any eligibility to run in parallel. So let's see if I can change it. So I think again it will ask me to buy subscription for project wise, or will it reuse? Let me check. So I'm trying to set up billing because I already have existing subscription, right? So I selected that button and click on save. So my existing subscription now I think will be applied to this project as well, is what I am guessing. Okay, awesome. So paid parallel jobs, I will set it to 5. I really don't want to use 20 for now. I'll click on save. Cool. So now the parallel jobs have been set to 5. Okay. Now let's go back to pipelines, and I just triggered this pipeline one more time, and now here you go. Now it's working. So it's trying to install the dependencies now. You see that 244 packages have been added, and now next step it's trying to start Playwright execution. So we have one test in place, calendar test, right? It has to run the test. Fingers crossed. First of all, it is authenticating with Azure with that service name of Rahul Shetty Academy, what we provided. So once the subscription is verified, then it will give us that endpoint where we can run our test. You see that running one test using one worker. Okay, so that's how the test execution is now happening on the cloud. The moment execution is done, the report will get generated, and you see one passed. And that where that reports will get generated. Do you remember that we have a separate dashboard for Playwright? Either you can go to that dashboard, or you will see that link here as well. Once that is completed, it says, okay, now go to this test report from your dashboard. So let's go to playwright.microsoft.com. This is the pipeline test calendar it has run. You see one test and it is passed. Okay. So you run tests in the cloud, and cloud gets back that report to your company dashboard. Like when you create a subscription, you will get your own dashboard. So that's where reports will be received. Okay. Now let's actually change that pipeline job for parallel users and see how that goes. So right now my parallel testing will work only up to 5 browsers. That's how we did setting. Okay. My subscription I gave for 5 users. So let me give it to workers equals to 5, and I'll remove giving the specific test, because if I give only one test to run, there is no point of running in parallel. So if I just give like this, that means now the Playwright will run all the tests in my framework pointing to this service cloud configuration, and execution number I'm saying maximum 5 instances at a time. So it will provide us 5 cloud hosted environments at a time to run 5 test cases. Okay. So the beauty part here is when we say CI/CD, that means continuous integration. The moment you change the code and you commit it, so you can commit directly in the repository. So when you commit and when this repository detect change, automatically pipeline job will trigger again. That is called CI/CD. So that means you commit the code and the pipeline job triggers to test your new committed code to see how the results are. Now you see, click on commit. It is committed, right? Now come back to pipelines and execution is started. You see that just now one execution is started. We didn't start it manually, but because of the CI/CD integration, you updated code there with latest changes, and the moment you updated there, a new build started to check how your new build is working. That's the beauty, that everything we can integrate together in Azure portal along with the results, right? Now, starting from code repository, cloud hosting execution, online reports, everything we have outsourced to the Azure, and all we have in our system is a simple repository, and we are not worried about any DevOps thing. Okay, the complete DevOps solutions we have outsourced to Azure, right? And with simple configurations, what if I have explained from last 1 hour, with those configurations, we have set our DevOps integration for once and all. Okay, now you see that tests are running in parallel mode and 19 tests are running now. Okay, let them run, and you can schedule these runs to run nightly or whenever code commit happen, they'll automatically run. And when execution is done, now this, let's go to home directory here. This is your report dashboard. Okay, playwright.microsoft.com and workspaces. This is your workspace. Right now we have 2 tests run. Now another monster test is running with almost 20 tests in 5 browsers, and after a few seconds, that will be reported here, and you can watch all failures, debug everything. All right, test execution is done, and you can go back and check your results in your dashboard. Here you go. You see, third report which we just ran, the 12 passed and 7 failed. And you know how great this reporting system is, that just like how you have reports with Playwright in your local, same experience you get it here, that if you want to know why tests are failed, then you can simply go to that specific test, and here it will talk about what exactly for reason, what is the error, and at what step it failed, and again same place, the cart page. Okay, and if you want to know with a screenshot as well as a video, then you can go to trace viewer, where you will see the video here. Here you go. You see, you can see everything. So that's how the entire DevOps solution for your Playwright test, which you have in your local repository. Okay, as I said in the beginning, Playwright and Azure is developed by Microsoft, so they have seamless integration. So with one single Azure subscription, you can have parallel runs, cloud runs, CI/CD integration, repository management, everything in one single place. Okay, hope this helped. Thank you.